resolved every other thing for me. So serve in the house of God, pray, and constantly want the presence of God, and it would always be there for us. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the power of vision. Because it's so important that we know that vision has a role to play. Vision often means that you see a future state, right, ahead of when it crystallizes. Habakkuk 2:1-2 says, write down the vision, make it plain that all who read it may run with it. So vision itself is what fuels you, is what strengthens you, is what gives you the courage. If you know that in the next 10 years, as an example, you'll be the chief executive, you would run your race quite differently, because you would start to see yourself in the light of where you're going rather than where you are. It helps you, it sets you apart literally from everybody. So if you know I'm going places, there's some things you won't bother doing, right? If you know you're going to have 100 billion, as an example, in the next 20 years, you begin to comport yourself in a manner that is worthy of where you're going. So a vision is very, very important. And I will pause here to say that at times, people who come to me to mentor them ask me, so how do you see that grand vision? The Bible is clear. We see in part, we know in part, we prophesy in part. So you are not supposed to, you may not see everything, but you would see a few things, or you would hear a few things. There will be inner witness about a few things. You need to then start to run with those little things. As you run with them, things would unfold, right? Like Oyeyemi put this event together. Only God truly knows where it is going. I hope you know that. Only God knows where this will end. Only God knows what it means for our life, right? But she has taking this small step. So we won't despise the days of little beginnings. We won't despise the day that God just says, put a small thing together and just think about it. Because only God truly knows where everything will end. Even the big things start with very small seeds in people's hearts and a heart of obedience and action that follows all of those obedience. So a vision is very important. It will silence all the noise. So for instance, if you know you're going to be this in 10 years, even if your friend is already 20 miles ahead, it won't matter to you. You will focus on your own journey and focus on your own path, as the case may be. So for me, if someone had asked me 20 years ago, so I've now worked in the organization for 20 years as of September, as of last month. But if someone had asked me then if I knew I would be here, or if I knew exactly how my journey would be, I would be lying to them that I knew. I didn't. But there were a few things I knew. One was that I was going to have a very successful career. Two was that I was going to work in an organization. So I knew I wasn't going to be an entrepreneur. So God did not lay it in my heart that I would do a business. It was clear, like surely as night as day, that I wasn't going to be a business person. So you could get direction at that broad level and then pursue. In my case as well, some things have been weird for me personally. I just have some gift of knowing some things. So I knew, like, I was going to start working 2 weeks after NYSC. I just knew. I knew exactly at what age I would get married. I just knew. So I just knew. And anytime people asked me, I remember when we graduated and went to serve, I was serving someone in Bayelsa, and I was in a village. So we usually would then leave the village to go to town once a week or so. And each time we went to town, we go to banks, because like a couple, you go and withdraw the small alawi to spend and all of that. And the bankers, seeing us in our NYC uniform, will ask, oh, how are you guys doing? And we'll say we're fine. And they will engage us. I remember they would ask me, when will you start working? I will tell them 2 weeks after NYSC. I never knew that what I was saying. It also means we should also call forth some of the things that God has said to us, and we should manifest it even before it shows up. But I didn't know the importance of what I was saying until many years after. But there was a day we went to town, and the person asked me again, so when are you starting work? I said 2 weeks after NYC. And then the guy challenged me. That was the first time someone would challenge me on me just saying what I thought it was going to be. And the person said, oh, so have you applied anywhere? I looked at it, I said, no. Have you attended any interview? I said, no. Does your father have a company? I said, no. So the guy looked at me and said, and you're going to start working 2 weeks after? I said, yes. Even me, how it happened, I didn't know. I was just saying it. But I still somehow believed it, because there's also the gift of faith that comes with some things. And some people just believe some things, even when it makes no sense. Because really, logically speaking, it made no sense. But guess what then happened? Just about a month before we finished NYSC, I heard that our school said we could come and collect our transcript and certificate. So I came down to this southwest from Bayelsa and went to school. And I remember that as I was leaving the school, I just saw one of my classmates, Benga. Benga said, well, Mimi, I found a job. Oh. You found a job? Where? He said, IBTC. Really? Help me submit my CV now. And he said to me, oh, no, he couldn't. He's traveling back. But somehow, that was all the information I needed. I got home, went to a cyber cafe. It wasn't the days of mobile applications. I went to a cyber cafe, sent my CV and all of that, and went back to Bayelsa. About a week after, something just was prompting me to go to town to check my email. I couldn't even explain why I got up and went to town, only to see that I'm coming for interview the next Monday. Again, I came back to Lagos. And to the glory of God, I remember doing all sort of interviews that day. Some things, no one trained me on how to do interview. No one trained me on how to do a lot of things. But the Holy Spirit was with me. And I knew, because there were some utterances that I was saying that day, that even me, I knew that it wasn't coming from my small heart. As a 21-year-old girl, I showed up. I remember the founder of IBC asked me, so why should I hire you? And I looked at him and said, because I'm competent, I can do the job. The guy was taken by surprise. And he didn't even ask me any more questions after I said so. Till today, I wonder how I got that boldness and that courage. But to put the long story short, they asked me when will you start working? Congratulations, we'd like to offer you a job. I said, it's 2 weeks after NYSC now. We've been saying it since. They said, so what's the date? So we now went to look at the date. I said, okay, it is this date. I would resume on exactly 2 weeks after NYSC. And so many things have happened subsequently. And that's the power of God showing you clarity and giving you vision. Somehow, it will also then lead you. Remember what I said earlier. It's not enough to catch the vision. It's very important that you stay in the presence of God in partnership, so that the vision will become what? Manifested. It's not enough to just hear and go. And then the things you need to do in between, God will also show it to you. The other reason why you need the vision is that as you walk with God, you will discover more of yourself. You know, you don't know yourself. We think we know ourselves, but I've concluded that we really don't know much about ourselves. There are things you have that you don't even know you have yet. Oftentimes, it's as you engage with God and you sort of walk through visions that some of those things will become clear to you. So you need to discover your gifts. You need to discover your purpose. Some of it are discovered through the fellowship of people. People will just come to you. Are you aware that this happens when you speak? Are you aware that this happens when you speak? And then you begin to catch on some of your gifts that God has given unto you. But one thing I'm clear about, everyone here has a gift. You have a place. You have a call in the marketplace and in God's agenda. But it is your job to find what it is and then run with it and serve God with it. The next thing I would like to talk about is the power of wisdom. This wisdom matter is a very serious matter. Because the wisdom of God is sort of what would lead you and guide you into all the things we need to do. So with a vision, you know where you're going. With wisdom, you have guidance on what to do, specifically per time. And the parable of the 10 virgins is usually a very nice parable to talk about. There were 10 virgins. All, of course, means that all of them are spiritually alert, but all of them are pure, right? All of them are living righteously, but some of them were still wise and some of them were still foolish. So it's just to remind you that wisdom is to know. I don't know if anyone has ever wondered, why did they bring extra oil? Is it because someone told them to? Is it because they've experienced outage before? So wisdom of God is sort of what would go before you. There are things that you need that you may not even know you need, that only the wisdom of God can nudge you. But there are things that you need to walk towards yourself and make sure you have. They had oil in challenging times and in very difficult situations, when things don't necessarily go as we thought it would, is when we will separate the wise from the unwise, right? And that's the parable there. I'll give you an example. I think sometime in 2024, early 2024, this job, I got put in the meeting room, and before then I already knew it was time to leave. I told people that it's time for me to change my role. So it's the wisdom of God that will help you know when your time and seasons have come to an end, as an example. And on this journey, times come, time go. You need to leave. You can't stay where God has left you. I have experienced God so many times where I will say, you know what, it looks like it's time to go, right? And he had told me that it's time to dig another well. I'd done that job for 5 years. So I knew it was time. And they had called me into a meeting. I remember when I went to meet my boss to say, it's time for me to leave. You want to leave? This great role. I said, it's time to go. And I remember him responding to me saying, Wunmi, there's no job for you. I said, I know there's no job, but I've prayed. God has told me it's time. The job will show up. Even he was amazed how within 1 week, he called me for a meeting to say, Wunmi, we'll have a job for you. Because even he didn't know there was a job. But me, I knew it was time for a new job, and I knew it was time to have the conversation with him. Prior to when I had the conversation with him, I think I had been praying about it for like 4 to 5 months. So it wasn't that I just woke up and went to have a conversation. It was that I knew it was time to have a conversation. And so when he called me back and told me, oh, there was a job for me and all of that, but they won't tell me the job until the following, about 2 or 3 months after. And I said, it's fine. When they are ready, they should let me know. Eventually, they told me about the job. We started the process. Because I was moving from an asset management business back to the bank, it required the central bank's approval. And it took a whole lot of time. We're literally on that central bank approval for 1 whole year. But what had happened prior to that was that somehow I've been chartered since I left school. By the time I was going to the workplace, I already a chartered accountant. I've been qualified to do my fellowship. I never did it. For all the years, I never bothered. I said, why should I increase my subscription? It doesn't change anything. A chartered accountant is a chartered accountant, whether fellow or associate. But in 2023, it was as if they lit a candle on my bottom. I went to do my FCA for no reason. In fact, people were asking me, why are you doing it? I said, I just feel the need that I should just go and do it. At the time, I didn't even know I was coming back into finance because I had left finance for so many years. And then a month down the line, they're telling me, Wunmi, you're coming back to the bank. Now, on the final attempt of the organization to get the approval across the line, the only thing the person said was, she's a fellow chartered accountant. She's qualified to be the CFO of a bank. In fact,